The biography of Albert Einstein is an important part of the memory of human knowledge. He is the myth of modern science in this century, as many have described it, especially with his most prominent theory of relativity, which has garnered great attention and popularity, both in the specialized scientific community and even among the general public, despite the complexity and difficulty of the theory, at the expense of his other scientific achievements, which have not received the same amount of fame for their importance. A Greek teacher scolded him in his childhood and told him that he would accomplish nothing in his life. However, Einstein's life, born on March 14, 1879, is replete with many exciting milestones, both socially and historically. His psychological composition, as well as his academic, scientific, and humanitarian record, and his varying attitudes towards philosophical, artistic, and political issues. 1. Albert Einstein was not at the beginning of his life a brilliant and genius child, so that the Greek teacher once rebuked him, telling him that he would accomplish nothing in his life, and when he began to utter and repeat some words, he remained silent and did not forget to play like his peers, which many of his biographers pointed out and explained that his weak structure contributed in his tendencies to isolation and introversion. Albert's presence in a Catholic school, where he was the only one of the Jewish disciples, made him feel a state of religious discrimination and his inability to fuse between them. 2. According to Einstein's sister, Maya, she mentioned in her book about him that since he was a small child, in their native Germany, those close to him worried about him that he might never be able to speak, as his teaching of pronunciation took a long time, and in school he was not attracted by the study of the humanities, and he stumbled a lot in her lessons, while he faced great difficulties in writing, which made them believe that he suffers from a pathological reading disorder known medically as dyslexia. 3. Einstein's scientific and academic career also witnessed many stages of failure. He failed the university entrance exam, forcing him to work as a writer in an office for a period not so short, but, on the other hand, he was able at that stage to find enough time to invest in developing his ideas and scientific theories, in addition to publishing his theoretical research, so he was able to move on to work in the academic field. Einstein's scientific and academic career was subjected to many stumbling blocks and stages of failure, including his failure in the university entrance exam. He also faltered in obtaining his doctorate more than once and faced complications during the whole 5 years between 1901 and 1905, when 6 attempts to obtain his doctorate were rejected. From the University of Zurich, Switzerland, he wrote a letter to a friend revealing his desire to abandon the idea from the ground up and revealing the great boredom and sadness that had crept into himself, describing the academic situation and intransigence towards him as a farce. 4. Perhaps many do not believe that the theory of relativity, which has been able to garner remarkable attention and wide admiration in both academic and mass scientific circles, and is a revolution against the principles laid down by Galileo and Newton, was not explicitly mentioned in the decision to award Einstein the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921 and was the main reason for his victory. His interpretation of the so-called phenomenon of photoelectric influence, as well as his works in theoretical physics, of which relativity is a must. 5. Einstein was attached to art and a passion for playing the violin since he was a young child, and was especially fond of the music of Mozart and Bach. He recalls that he continued to play once until his right palm stopped moving at the required speed and precision at an advanced stage of his life, and in addition, he participated in concerts held for charitable purposes and, on the other hand, relied on them as a means of psychological comfort. 6. Since the Nazis came to power and seized power in Germany, Einstein, known for his Jewishness, had become a prominent figure and gained unlimited fame following the spread of his theoretical and scientific research in physics, which caused him many problems after the escalation of hatred in Europe in the wake of the growing hatred against Jews. In the early 30s, while Einstein was working in the United States, the Nazis launched a violent attack against him. The Third Reich accused him of treason, and Nazi students burned his works. 7. From early in his life, Einstein had many political positions, which took many stages and witnessed many disparities, especially in the period between the two world wars and after their completion, but he refused the post of President of the State of Israel in 1952, where the Israeli ambassador in Washington wrote to Einstein on behalf of the Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, asking him to assume the post of head of state, but he refused. Although his theory of relativity was considered a revolution in physics, it did not explicitly mention the decision to award him the Nobel Prize. Before that, Einstein visited Palestine in 1923, where he came to the house of the British ruler, who was impressed by the theory of relativity. And in Palestine, according to Dr. Muhammad Abd al-Rahman Marhaba in his book on Einstein, the latter mentions that the latter criticized the attitudes of Jews against Arabs in Palestine, wasting their heritage and history and not recognizing them, until this caused him not to be welcomed by Jewish extremists during his visit. He also delivered a speech on campus at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, where he stressed the need for this university to be a center of cultural and civilizational radiation in the region. 8. Einstein was averse to war and rejected politics in its organizational sense, refusing to submit to parties, to join them and to join any of them. And in 1920, he told a team of Americans who were visiting Berlin, telling them, "My love of peace is an instinctive feeling, a feeling that has taken over me, because killing man is disgusting. My position is not derived from a mental theory, but is based on my very deep hatred of every kind of cruelty and hatred." 9. Einstein criticized the League of Nations established after the First World War, saying that it does not prevent the resort to force in the settlement of political disputes, nor does it go beyond being a means of pressuring smaller countries in order to enter areas of influence and acquiescence to the major powers. And although Einstein was a member of the Committee on Mental Cooperation affiliated with this international organization, he resigned only a year later. 10. In March 2002, Einstein's August 2, 1939 letter to U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, warning him of Germany's intention to build the atomic bomb, was sold for $2.1 million. This message is the main reason for the launch of the famous American Manhattan Project, which after 5 years succeeded in making the world's first nuclear bomb. Despite the historical significance of this speech, another letter by Einstein, dating back to 1954, addressed to the philosopher Eric Godkind, managed to break this record, as it sold during an auction in New York at the end of 2018 for about $3 million. In 2017, he was also sold 2 papers he wrote in Japan in 1922 for $1.56 million, one of which he gave to a postman instead of giving him a tip while giving lectures in Tokyo after learning of winning the Nobel Prize in Physics, telling him that if he's lucky, that paper could be valuable. It read, in German, "A quiet, humble life will bring more happiness than the pursuit of success and the constant anxiety that comes with it," while the other paper reads, "When there is determination, there is a way to achieve what you aspire to."